Welcome back to Charging Stack, where we talk to the people reinventing how we move. Today we are digitally in Sweden with Håkan Lutz, CEO and founder of Luvly, the company behind a patented modular platform for building light urban vehicles that are sustainable, affordable, and safe. They cost around 10,000 euros, weight under 400 kilos, and cruise in the 90 kilometers per hour with amazing battery efficiency. Here to tell us more about it, Håkan, one more time, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Likewise.
So we'd love to start somewhere from the beginning. Let's go back 15 years into the past and see what pushed you to create something as unconventional as Luvly O.
Well, Luvly O is a prototype built using the technology that we market. And the reason why this technology came to exist is exactly something that happened 15 years ago, where I ran a company trying to develop very, very light, yet safe and affordable urban vehicles, replacement for cars, which at that point proved impossible. We could make them very light, we can make them safe, but if we did, they were not affordable. They were actually really expensive. And since we could not reach that goal that we had set up for ourselves, we actually folded the company that I ran at that time. And a number of years later, we'd come up with a technical solution to that economic problem. And that's when we started Luvly and started the patenting process.
So was there a moment where you realized, okay, city mobility needs to really go smaller or things gonna bust?
Oh yeah. Well, I wouldn't say that there was a moment, but it's I've always been a car loving guy. Owning cars, driving cars, working on cars. Although I must admit that I prefer not to do that anymore. Except in special cases. But
It is a bad
know,
investment.
Well,
to
some
collect
cars are
coins.
really good investments. I wish I'd kept all my cars, but there's a space
Oh.
issue. But knowing cars from those perspectives, it becomes obvious that cars, the way that they look today, is not very efficient. It's rather very, very inefficient. It's downright stupid. Yeah. So I might love them, but I don't like them.
Yeah. I
And
mean, we do
that
tend
is
to
a
love things that don't
realization
make
that has
much
been,
sense.
yeah, that's it. But in the case of cars, I think it needs to make sense because cars, as you know, cars for personal transport are responsible for about a quarter of the total CO2 emissions globally. And that makes me think that, yeah, they have to make sense. We cannot afford that they don't make sense.
So was that one of your main goals with Luvly? Was it to reduce emissions, increase vehicle efficiency, something about safety?
Exactly so. Exactly so. It's to build something that is small and efficient. It's not difficult, and Luvly exists because it is difficult to create something that is light, in effect, then efficient, that is affordable, and that is safe. That combination is tricky, and since we managed to solve that equation, if it's necessary for us as individuals to do this.
Yeah,
I wanted to
definitely.
talk. Sorry, Philip. Yeah, continue.
Please do. Please do.
No, I just want to talk maybe, to bring Luvly closer to our audience. I mean, they're familiar with the microcars, but okay, we can agree Luvly can be directly compared to Citroen Ami and the whole Stellantis platform that they have. Let's say Renault Twizy, Microlino, etc., etc. How do you see Lovely's platform place in the market? Where you see its place in the market?
Well, I see us as suppliers to all of said companies, basically. Because what we've created is just a way of building structures much like the Citroen Ami. Or you know, you look at any microcar today, you know, that's what our platform has been developed for. So you could easily build structures like those, but you would, using our technology, add safety and reduce cost, which would allow someone to build a vehicle like, say, the Citroen Ami with very, very much better safety, and thus allowing it to go faster than 45 kilometers an hour, which, despite the traffic situation has been changing. You know, urban speeds are slower. However, and the producers of those vehicles may hate me for this, but myself, I do not think that replacing what we know as cars today with microcars, mini mobility vehicles that can only reach 45 kilometers an hour, I do not feel is an option. And on top of that, it's really, really difficult to achieve safety in structures built like those. I would argue that it's impossible. And what we need to do is we need to replace cars. You know, I would want to face a situation where much fewer cars are produced because they don't have to be produced, because there are viable alternatives to them.
Yeah, so do you
Speaking
think
of
this is a
safety,
shift that's gonna happen for maybe 20 years or something, you know? When you say we need to phase out cars, you know, how do you see this roll out, and how do you see this happening maybe in the future?
Well, what I would envision is a situation where the market offers the consumers, the users of cars, the end users of cars, alternatives. I mean, now I use cars in a very traditional sense. Yeah, we do by now admit that what could be produced with our technology is essentially cars. It's just another type of cars. I would call them modern cars. Now, when such vehicles are available in the marketplace, that would allow someone to, it would allow us a choice. You know, will I opt for, I think the average price of an electric car in the Union today is about 50,000 euros, and the weight is now approaching, I think, 2.5 tons.
Yep.
Now, is that what I want? Is that what I need? Because we know it's not. I mean, yes, a lot of people want it still, but it's not for transportation. You know, because for transportation, we know what people transport using cars, and it's one guy going intracity, sorry. You know, we travel from one place to another inside of a city, maybe some 30 kilometers a day. Sometimes we bring someone else. That's what cars are used for, statistically, and almost only that. So we've all seen the market for transportation changing. You know, we see these sharing systems popping up. They mostly die off again. But still, you know, we're testing these systems. We're testing combinations of different modalities of transport. I think that mini mobility or this type of relevant alternatives to cars will replace them because they're available, because they're so much better than traditional cars at what they do.
Mm-hmm. And of course, in Europe, I feel like recently, I mean, not recently, the past 10 years, let's say, it was that shift to small SUVs, crossovers. I feel like we kind of adopted that system from Americans. Totally unnecessary from my end. I don't know why are we driving SUVs on a flat land. Okay, I understand if you live, in uphill,
Yeah.
you need an SUV for, 4x4, but you don't need a 4x4 in Stockholm, let's say, you don't need an X7 driving around. Uh,
Yeah.
Speaking of safety, you mentioned safety in your platform in comparison to, let's say, Citroen Ami. Just want to reflect and remind our listeners and all of us of that viral video when they flipped a Citroen Ami in Monaco. Have you seen that video when they flipped
Yeah, sure.
yeah? Can you flip a lovely O like that?
I trust me, I'm not the kind of test driver that tries not to flip something.
Mm-hmm.
I have not managed even closely to flip
Yeah.
our prototypes. But of
Yeah.
course, it's a matter of construction. You could flip anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of speed and G forces. It's but I don't think that holding that video with someone flipping an Ami in Monaco, I don't think that is fair again to hold against the Ami. Yeah,
No,
I
of
think
course.
that
Of
vehicle
course not.
really has a lot of advantages, and I like it very much myself. Um, it's just that for that segment, it's excellent
Mm-hmm.
as a really relevant replacement for a normal car. Not so much. I
No.
would not use that. It's it's for another transport situation, which is excellent.
Okay, let's talk that your category. So correct me if I'm wrong. You do fall into L7E, is that correct?
Well, our technology, we've developed the technology to enable someone to build really, really good vehicles that fit into the L7E category.
Okay.
That is not to say that you couldn't use it for something else. I mean, it would
Mm-hmm.
be equally good for L6 or
Mm-hmm.
L5. It could very well be used to produce the very popular nowadays, to at least to discuss the M0 category, which would be somewhere in between L and M, or M1. The the existing regulatory framework allows you to do things in L7 that, if you can provide safety, despite
Mm-hmm.
there being no demands for safety, or very, very small demands for safety in L categories, but if you can deliver that, then it's a category that is very conducive to producing an affordable vehicle. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so if you wanted to really build something that makes a real lot of sense, something that would allow you to supply vehicles that compete price-wise with used cars,
Mm-hmm.
used normal cars. And we know that, 2 out of 3 sales, you know, of cars are normally used cars.
Yeah.
So the number of transactions when it comes to used cars is very much higher, which makes it really super relevant to be able to supply something that competes price wise with used cars.
So yeah, makes total sense. And you mentioned demand. Okay, let's talk demand. How big do you think the market is for these small affordable EVs under 15, 10K in Europe right now? So let's say you are pitching to someone as we know you do. How big is the market? How many potential players there are who want to collaborate with you and sell those vehicles?
Well, it's one of my colleagues frequently refers to what we're in as an iPhone moment, which is to say that if you ask people what they want, we know what they answer, because that is what is dominating the market today. They will answer that they want a small modern SUV with lots of touchscreens, right?
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
a Tesla, or the like. And they don't know what else is there. It's like the very popular comparison with the horses around well,
Henry Ford thought, right?
100 years ago, when people asked whether they were asked whether they would want or what kind of transportation they would want, they did answer, I want a faster horse.
Yeah.
Because there were no cars, there was nothing of the like to desire. So I would argue that there is a very good reason to outlaw traditional cars in urban settings. They're not called for in most urban settings. Now, if you would do that, right, and this is just playing with the thought. I'm not arguing that will happen sometime soon, even though it is happening to some extent in a lot of places. Yeah,
It is.
but if it would happen, then probably 80% of all cars would be obsolete, because that is exactly what they're used for. And then I would argue that 80% of the market for cars in Europe would be for LUVs.
Yep.
So that is one way of looking at it, right? And anything between what we have today, the market size today, which is fairly close to zero, and 80% of the total market for cars, I would argue that is the range that we're looking at.
Okay. So now I'm just thinking in my head. Let's say realistically, okay, the switch needs to happen. The iPhone moment needs to happen. But let's say with the current settings, with the how people live currently, who would be someone who would drive Lovely platform, something on a Lovely platform, a vehicle of that kind? Is it statistically, who is currently someone who would buy those vehicles, let's say, right now in the market? Who buys
Well,
them? Who buys microcars?
it's okay. This is a trick question.
Yeah.
Because who buys microcars today? We have a couple of different types of microcars. We have the EU45s, the Amis, and the Ligier, and the that kind of vehicle. I'm not gonna nail these guys buying those types of vehicles to the wall by calling them out on why they're buying them. But that is a segment that it's one of the larger segments buying microcars, and I would not argue that they're relevant to our market projections. Then you have the buyers of the very fine but also very expensive microcars. Take the Microlino.
Yeah.
I don't know what the actual market price is for the Microlino today exactly, but it is, I would say, certainly somewhere between 20 and 30,000 euros, probably closer to the upper range. Yeah. Now, those again are not likely the most attractive buyers of large numbers of microcars.
Absolutely.
Oh, if you look at what I would project to be the large numbers of buyers, those are exactly the same people that actually buy a car today to transport themselves. Yeah, and those are, I mean, in demographics, there is no telling what they look like, because they exist from the ages of 18 to 85, at least. Yeah, it's you, it's me, and it's most of urban dwellers using cars today.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Microlino is a great design, great vehicle, but the price point, it just, for me, it defines the category for someone who has money and who can buy that vehicle to be like an extra thing they have in a garage. It's definitely a show-off design. It's beautiful. It looks awesome. I mean,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
BMW
it's a
sets,
super nice vehicle.
yeah, yeah, super nice vehicle, but it's
Yeah,
definitely like an add-on to your, current, let's say,
Yeah,
fleet
but
at home.
and it's
yeah,
very much a statement.
yeah. I mean, when you
Definitely,
think
it's
about it,
yeah.
you can find many mainstream EVs in today's European market at 25 to 30,000 euros. And that's not a micro car, like that's a full blown standard car, let's call it standard car, with all the technologies, all the amenities and all the accessibility features that we want.
Yeah,
Uh, but
yeah,
when you strip all that away and say, okay, here's this exact same price point or a similar one for 10% of it, even in volume, I mean, what you gonna do? I mean, you need to make it affordable. So I think that's kind of one of the main arguments in this thin mobility and mini mobility spaces is uh, if you're not affordable, it's kind of hard to go through and make your go to market strategy work. But let's leave
absolutely.
competition aside for a minute. I'd love to talk about the Luvly O first, since that's your prototype and that's what you're working on for so many years. For someone who has seen it the first time, uh, how would you describe it in a single sentence? You know, is it something? Where do you stand on describing Luvly O to someone?
Okay, so I would, being me and selling what I do, I would describe it in technical terms.
And
I
that's what
Let's
would
go.
I hear.
I would describe it as what it is. It is
Hmm
a microcar, but it's considerably bigger actually than most vehicles being marketed as microcars today. It is 2.7 meters long, so it's the same size as the first generation smart car.
hmm
It's 1.5 meters wide. Using the technology that we have, we've managed to, in that, I mean, it's still a small envelope, but inside it's a spacious, roomy, very nice um, space to be in. So it's rather small on the outside. It's still bigger than most microcars. It's very big on the inside. It's just a nice vehicle, but what it offers um, is relevant speed and safety compared to a normal A-class car. And of course, now we're talking passive safety. Someone would argue that you'd have to fit that with seat, not only seat belts but airbags and all these
Yeah.
things and active systems, which of course we haven't fitted our prototypes with, and which I would also argue that if you're properly belted inside of a car with decent passive safety, airbags will add very little to total safety in
Yeah.
those cases. Yeah,
Yeah.
hmm
And may even cause damage, actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in the or assessments that have been made on airbags, the results are varying. So, but also leaving that aside, Um, that's what you see. That then, from my personal perspective, I would go into the construction. The fact that the Luvly O is built using a technology that we patented. It has a sandwich composite chassis and energy absorbers surrounding that, much like a Formula One car. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's the same kind of structure, just very, very simplified. Simplified to the extent that what is normally a very expensive way of building any structure. Sandwich composites are traditionally really expensive to build. But doing it like we do it, it becomes instead very cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I like to ask you actually is those very technicalities you wanted to talk about. So, it's tiny, but I mean, it's not that tiny. That's 1.5 meters, 2.5 meters. Those are nice dimensions. But it's so light. You know how we for example, I drive Skoda Fabia and it's around 1 ton, and that's a small car. I have to say it's a small car, but it's 1 ton, and Luvly O is not even half. You know, and it amazes me. So it's tiny, it's light, it's efficient. It looks like a real car. I mean, it's a real car, but you know, it has 2 seats, proper boots, weather protection. So, uh, how did you manage to achieve all this in around 350, 400 kilograms? So that's so small, so light.
Yeah, it is. And um, well, it's like we start with the foundation that is intelligent. We start with a chassis. The strong part of the vehicle is built using sandwich composites, which allows us to make it really light. The chassis weight about 60 kilos. So
Wow.
yeah, because we don't utilize any steel. We there is a lot of aluminium. You must admit,
Yeah.
not compared to an aluminium structure, but there's a lot of aluminium in the cars the prototypes that we built. Um,
So,
that amount of aluminium can be reduced in further development, but that's how we've done it now. And then the crash safety structures do not utilize steel either. You know? They utilize plastic foams. And to be honest, some smart construction of suspension, etc. So we create a structure that is light in every part. And yes, we've had to meddle with some of the other parts that are normally in a car. For example, I know the seat in a Volvo today weighs about 50 kilos, the driver's seat in a Volvo. We tried to find in the open market lightweight seats, and we could find seats that weighed 15, 20 kilos. We made our own seats, they weigh 5 kilos. And yes,
that's a lot.
yeah,
That's
they're still very, very simple. But what I'm trying to say is that yes, we have a foundation that is conducive to creating a very light vehicle. We've also had to work a bit on specific parts, not making them expensive or complicated, but to make them light. And together, this foundation allows us to use simple and small motors, a simple suspension system, very small batteries, and taking together all these parts that work because it is a light structure that makes for a light vehicle. Even though, I mean, to be honest, if you look at the chassis and it's 60 kilos and you compare it with the final vehicle that is 400 kilos, There's there's a lot of kilos in those parts.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's room for
Mm-hmm.
improvement too. I think you'd say. So another thing that really caught my attention was when you mentioned those energy absorbing panels. So could you tell us a bit more about that, because it sounds really innovative in such space as microcars.
What is innovative, I'd say, is that because it's a sandwich structure, so you have these large panels. You don't have a tubular chassis, a space frame with holes in it.
Yeah,
You have the top, a safety cell that surrounds the passengers. That allows us to use what I would say is distributed uh, energy absorbers. So we can use a foam because it has these flat surfaces to adhere to stop them entering the safety cell. So and you people have been using foams as crash absorbers since forever. It's
Mm-hmm.
just to take a helmet, any helmet.
yeah,
They've been using phones, yeah, and
yeah.
you have phones inside of bumpers, etc., on any car basically. So what we've done is just we've taken that and taken it to what you might call the extreme. We just make them bigger because the structure allows us to handle safety like that. And that also is necessary for another purpose. It's because despite sandwich panels being very, very rigid, so they're stiff because of the core material, and they're strong because of the fibers in the laminates of the. I don't know how much you or the listeners know about sandwich structures, but that's how they're built. You take a, a strong material as a surface material in a sandwich, so you have a core to keep them fixed at a distance between each other. That gives you the stiffness, and then the strength comes from the fibers in the laminates. And you can then direct these fibers. You can direct them to absorb exactly the forces that they need to absorb. And that's all good. And that creates a very strong, globally strong structure. However, what you need in terms of thickness of the laminates in a structure like a microcar is very little. You would end up with a structure that has maybe a millimeter of glass fiber. That is enough for the strength of the structure globally. Locally, you could take a high heel and step on it, and you would go straight through. So you need to actually protect the structure from intrusion, and you need to protect all of it basically. So that's another reason why plastic foams covering the outside of the chassis is a really good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
I see what I may look like. Okay, sorry, Marin, I interrupted you.
no, no, no. I just have a really interesting quote written down from Autocar when they wrote an article on you. They claim that 250 unassembled bodies can fit inside a single shipping container, compared with about 20 fully built cars. That's super interesting. Can you comment on that?
Yeah.
That's a wild
Well,
claim.
I I refuse to be held responsible for what journalists write. That's happened before. But but you say they claim 250 bodies
Yeah,
in a
Unassembled.
container.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Unassembled
Now,
bodies can be.
that would actually make sense. And the reason is that using this technology that we've developed, you don't have to have a specialized factory to create what is called in the automotive world a body in white. So you don't build a structure in what is, I would argue, by necessity, a specialized factory that put that structure together. and then you ship that. Now, a car is built as a unibody, so the chassis and the body, they're all the same. And this is something that we have done away totally with. We've had to. So the body is totally separate from the chassis, from the strong structure. And thus, a body for a Luvly O, for example, it weighs about 30 kilos, the whole body. It's a very nice material.
Wow.
It's a thermoplastic body. It's also, and I'm deviating a bit now, but the way we assemble a body, attach a body to the chassis structure, is when we do it ourselves in Luvly, it's a click-on system. So you actually click the system onto the chassis, and you can, yeah. So it's super rapid. No fasteners, no bolts, no adhesives, no nothing.
Okay,
And you can thereby also remove body panels and replace them easily. It's also fairly scratch resistant through colored material that comes out of the mold, looking like exactly the body part that it's supposed to be. So no surface treatment is needed. There can be no rust, and so on and so on. But essentially, you can then take such body panels and just stack them like bowls, plastic bowls. Stack body panels inside each other and fill up a container. And okay, since I don't know that quote, but you say they save 250
Unassembled bodies in comparison
bodies.
to 20 fully built ones.
Yeah, so 250 bodies, that would make for 7.5 tons. Whereas I think you can ship in a container something like 20 tons, 25 tons, maybe even more. And that, again, points us to another thing that is really important with our technology. It allows you to assemble vehicles locally, which means that you do not ship volume, or at least not to the same extent, because that's what you pay for in shipping. You pay for volume. You don't pay for weight. And if you can compact what you need to ship so that you basically unfold this structure at the point of sale, you can save a lot. I made maybe 75-80% in shipping costs.
yeah, it may,
Because
Yeah,
sense.
again, a car is really it's a lot of volume. Yes, we complain that they weigh too much, and that's true. But in
The-
comparison to the volume that they occupy, they're really not heavy.
yeah, so we're definitely
So yeah,
then thinking a big savings across the supply chain, and because you can ship them flat, uh, does that mean you can have assembly hubs in each country, let's say, maybe even within cities themselves, when scaling?
yeah, definitely. Big cities, absolutely, certainly. I would argue that you can build an assembly plant that is an efficient place of construction, of production, that produces 10,000 or less vehicles a year, which means that you could probably run it efficiently also at lower volumes, and that would allow you to service fairly small markets, definitely smaller than the really big European cities or Asian cities for that matter. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to. You mentioned, yeah.
There's one thing that I've been wanting to ask for some time. So we didn't ask anything around it since the start of the interview. So can you walk us through your battery setup? So is it removable packs? Is it for a fixed unit? How much
Yeah,
kilowatts?
I
And
can walk you through what we advocate
please do.
and
Please do.
what we've done in Luvly O.
Yeah.
And I think you're pointing at a very important factor, namely that yes, we know that we need to shift to electric vehicles, electric cars, in order to save emissions, right? We also know that charging is already problematic and will be much more problematic with a major part of the vehicles in cities being electric and needing charging
Yes.
stations, fast
Yes.
charging stations. So, since our vehicles are so light, so that they actually consume so little energy, you don't need, or you should actually avoid large battery packs, but because they're heavy in themselves. So what
Mm,
we've done, we've located and purchased very, very good portable, swappable battery packs from a standard producer. One of the good ones, delivering very fine packs. So in the Luvly O, we've fitted it with two battery packs. They're each 3.2 kilowatt hours. They weigh 15 kilos. That's not too much for the normal user to just easily take them out, either exchange them for another charge battery pack, which again allows for a totally new business model for someone
Yeah.
else
Yeah.
supplying energy, rather than us selling battery packs, which really does not have to be in the business model of the producer. Just
Yeah.
like
A complete
selling,
business.
yeah, I mean, selling fuel in this kind of type, in this case electricity, is not normally in the car producer's interest. That is the oil company's interest, or
Exactly.
the utilities selling electricity. But this also, for the private user, allows you to take out the packs, charge it at home, charge it in the office. It allows you to totally avoid the whole hassle with charging stations. You can also utilize this possibility to slow charge rather than fast charge the packs, which is really good for the batteries.
Yeah.
And it would allow the operator of, say, a sharing system with vehicles being placed out in the streets for users to just access as they please, to not have them occupy charging stations, to not build their own charging stations to have them parked at, but you just go around, maybe with another LUV, bringing charged battery packs and replacing those that are in the vehicles. Now, again, facilitating the transition to multiple parallel transportation systems, which I think is going to be necessary.
mhm,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool that you're going for that removable battery packs. For example, I love Gogoro from Taiwan. I'm sure you've heard of them. So
Oh yeah.
I think that's the when I saw that for the first time, I was like, okay, these guys are going so global. They're so going to succeed. Because it just makes sense, especially in such markets. I mean, okay, their Taiwanese market is a bit different than European, but I see that in Europe that's also starting to happen. I see that three-wheelers, small four-wheelers like microcars are going for replaceable battery packs, and the new players are rising who are offering those battery packs. And as you mentioned now, a small LUV that could go around, drive, and disperse all those battery packs. It's just an idea waiting for someone to implement it. So I think it's really cool that what we mentioned in the beginning. Uh, it's a paradigm shift. It's not something like we can transition from a SUV that we are kind of used to now to a microcar in just 1 year. It needs to happen over decades where new, smaller sub-industries are going to happen that will support the main players, and more supporting pillars will arise. So I think that you're kind of in a perfect storm, where so many companies from France, Germany, from Sweden. Sweden is kind of one of the top 3 countries regarding mobility startups. I mean, Marin and I have been covering these mobility stories for more than 6 months, and it's every day. You research, you write articles, you contact people, you talk with them, and you kind of find out what's happening. And
And it's
it's
a new
insane
Swedish startup
what
every day we found out.
yeah, yeah, it's like
Really?
they're popping
Yeah,
all
like we
over the and
so
and
many.
as I said, we're in a very privileged position because we get to sit on the sidelines and and just cheer people. We see all the technology, all the products, and it's so cool to see which direction Europe has taken. Maybe not on the legal and political part, but on this technological and cultural part. I see that we're making great progress, and this is Luvly is just one of the brands that's proving that we are on the right track, and I'm so happy to have the opportunity to talk to you today. So, and I
Yeah,
mean,
likewise.
it's really cool. Just
Uh,
another follow up on the battery. So, I know that vehicles that use around, I mean, I do some small crooked math in my math sometimes, with battery ranges. And how far could Lovely O go? You said these are 0.2 kilowatts and you have 2 battery packs. I think I remember correctly. So that's around 6 to 7 kilowatts. Is that 120 kilometers range or something like that?
Yeah, it is. Unless you decide to utilize the potential for speed that we offer, because like most vehicle, if you travel at the max speed that the vehicle is
Yeah.
will allow you to do, then so I'm not claiming that you can go 90 kilometers an hour for 100 kilometers. That you could not.
mhm,
I'm it would probably be possible to build a lovely type vehicle or an LUV that could travel 90 kilometers or 100 kilometers or possibly even more with the same size of battery packs. But it would have to be optimized exactly for air resistance. And the
Yep.
Lovely O is
mhm,
not. The O is
mhm,
an urban vehicle, it's it's
Yeah,
it
it's
has capacity to go faster, but normally, we're looking at speeds 30, 40, 50 kilometers an hour. And that's also the intention. It's not meant to take you far on highways. It's meant to allow you to go on and act on the ring road or the like for short periods of time, just to uh, to make it functional for the actual urban settings that we face.
mhm. And I feel like, I mean, we're talking different categories. If we're talking going 200 plus 250, that's a different car category, and so
yeah.
I don't think
I
that
mean, you're
that's
not the
even,
Pagani.
yeah, I mean,
No.
that's a totally different thing in my head. If we're talking a city
Yeah.
vehicle, an urban vehicle, and we're talking like a commuter that's like for the people who live, I don't know, 2 hours away from their work, that's a different thing. um Okay, let's talk price point. We saw a claim, okay, under 10K, 10K. It's caught a lot of attention. How is how are you selling them currently? Directly online, local partners, global partners.
We're
How does
not.
it go currently? Okay,
We're not selling vehicles. We're selling the
okay.
technology to other producers. That's all
How
we
are you
do.
selling technology?
Which means that yeah, we're only selling the technology. This is what we market. We market licenses that allows you to build this kind of because the patent applies to this structure, you know.
Mm,
So that we sell IP licenses, and we of course sell implicitly the knowledge and know-how that we've amassed for this technology.
Mm-hmm.
So you cannot buy an LUV today.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, you can buy a patent. Okay, but who's buying the patent? Can you like tell us the
No one,
current
no.
buyers, the
Okay,
patents?
so
I'm talking about technology. I'm not talking about cars, right?
yeah, yeah. So, and when we're talking about the technology, we have to admit that up until now, despite me having spent all of this time in this business, we still do not have a major buyer of what we sell.
Mm-hmm.
These are companies we're selling to, companies that have very, very long cycles. They do not purchase something, today or tomorrow. They purchase something having done the due diligence, having tested, having decided that this will fit into their business models, and this may take many years. So, considering that, we're quite happy with the success that we've had. But and implicitly, I'm telling you, yeah, these are our customers. So, of course, the bigger the customer, the more attractive. But it's since the technology that we've developed allows you to start production with very, very low capex, allows you to produce vehicles efficiently, cost effectively in fairly low numbers. We also cater to the small producers and the emerging producers, because to be honest, most people that start producing vehicles, they are into some technical development or a design, but they employ fairly traditional technologies, mostly steel space frames. And you could replace a steel space frame with our structure with ease.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would argue that it would make your life so much easier.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
And lighter.
interesting.
Lighter.
Yeah.
So let's since we're talking about sales and everything, let's talk about how future looks like for Luvly. So what are the next big milestones for Luvly over the next year? So 2026, what kind of big news are you hoping to see and hear around Luvly?
We're hoping to let you know that we've actually managed to convince one of the behemoths to adopt our technology.
Yeah, we hope
Mm-hmm.
we hope they are looking this our video right now. So come
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
come on.
Um, and I think that's quite possible. I don't promise that it's going to happen because it is a slow market. However, smaller players are much, much more agile. They're faster.
Mm-hmm.
So I would also hope that we will see some of the smaller players, the emerging players, adopting this technology so that you can actually buy LUVs. Maybe production is not up and running by next year, but it could be.
Okay, so
Okay.
we have some big plans for
Fingers
26.
crossed.
Another question here would I that I'd like to ask. So your flat pack platform, could it work maybe for a cargo version
Oh,
delivery?
absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
so you're looking to apply in all those industries. So you could go
Yeah,
from goods transportation to, global deliveries, bulk
Delivering, yeah.
deliveries, goods. Okay.
absolutely. I mean, if we look at the European situation, which is the one which I know best, you have the regulatory L system, the L segment, right? Which for passenger vehicles allows you a maximum weight of 450 kilos, excluding batteries. And you have a max speed of 90 kilometers an hour, quite sufficiently. And you can build vehicles that can accommodate 4 people. So despite us having released the Luvly O, which is a 2-seater, nothing prevents you from building a 4-seater using our technology, which again, it really expands the number of people that would be willing, not that they necessarily need it, but, as we said, people don't only buy what they need, they also buy what they want. On top of that, you have 2 categories within L7E. So you have L7E CP and CU, where the CU is the utility version, where the weight limit is 650 kilos.
Yeah, that's a bit more.
And with 650 kilos in our technology, you can do a lot. You can really do a lot. I mean, a small truck is no problem at all. So yeah, that's quite doable and an attractive proposition.
And just to another question, something like food for thought. So let's say Luvly has become a common sight on the roads. What has changed in the city? What's new? How do you see cities changing once Luvly is, on every street road, you can't walk a mile without seeing one. So what needs to happen?
Well, nothing much needs to happen. You just have to have them available. The marketing systems or the sales structures are in place. You don't need a lot of charging facilities, so that makes it a lot easier to adopt large numbers of LUVs. Servicing is, because it's a simple vehicle, is also simple to service. You can, and we have with our prototypes, create structures that are extremely simple to service. Parts that are difficult to service, that's sadly sort of a function of sandwich composite technology. But yeah, I think you would also see you would experience a situation where total road safety increases, because these very big, very heavy cars are dangerous, not for the passengers in the cars, but for everybody
For
else.
others.
Yeah, and that's something that is noteworthy, I think.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
would have a lot less. You would have a lot less pollution also of other kinds, road wear and tire wear. The particulates are really problems in urban settings today. You have lots of dirt in the air. With very light vehicles, that is reduced. I think you could argue probably an order of magnitude less. And then you have sound pollution, which is also a large factor from cars today. Very light electric vehicles, can barely hear them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that
absolutely.
is true for one vehicle. But if you listen to, I'm close to one of the major through roads in Stockholm, and wherever you are, whatever time of day, you can hear that as a background. It fills the city. That sound of cars swooshing. Why?
We've got news. Yeah.
Well, we got used to it, but it's not very nice.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I mean, I have to agree completely, because I've lived in a city for most of my life, and now I mean I do live in a village that's really close to this city where we're working from, and I don't hear anything at night, and not just at night, throughout the day. I hear the birds. You know, it's kind of weird when when you think about it and how we've gotten used to hearing all these cars and all those and inhaling all those fumes and
Yeah.
as I said, I think that you're on a perfect track. You know everything we've talked about here, and what you said. All it needs to happen. It's just time needs to pass. It just needs to be sold, and everything's kind of
Sentiment
set
has to
up.
change, I feel like.
Uh,
The
yeah,
whole sentiment of the consumer of OEM, not only OEMs, but just the perception of how we commute needs to change. It changed fast, in my opinion, how now I feel like nobody's buying. I don't know. I have to check the bike sales, the bicycle sales in comparison to electric scooters because that changed quickly. But let's see if cars can get substituted with microcars that are efficient and that are zero emission and whatnot. We kind of drained all the questions. Thank you so much for the answering. We're gonna jump into the quick fire section where I ask you a question and you kind of answer in a sentence or two. So I'll start with the first one. It's the most misunderstood thing about microcars, in your opinion.
Oh,
it's a good one.
Mm,
well, I think the most misunderstood part of microcars is that they have been understood to be a certain thing. And that is, it has been true, but it's not inherently true. A microcar is not necessarily what the microcars marketed today look like.
So it
Interesting.
doesn't have to
Interesting.
look like mine, Paulino.
Yeah. I think that's everyone's first thought about thinking about microcars. I feel like today in today's market, it's something like micro. They're
Yeah,
not thinking cargo. They're not thinking something differently.
No,
Uh,
I mean, I think people look at microcars or look at microcars as a phenomenon, and they think, okay, they're unsafe, they're noisy, they're uncomfortable,
mm-hmm,
and I say no, they're safe. Uh, they're quiet, they're comfortable.
mm-hmm. So again, breaking the stigmas. One
Yep.
regulation you'd love to see updated. Let's say on the EU level. I don't want to like go into details about country to country.
Okay, so a regulation. I would love to see the L7E category updated with safety regulations, the proper
Mm-hmm,
demands, because these are vehicles that are allowed to do 90 kilometers an hour. You're not allowed to drive them without a seatbelt, etc. And yet, the demands on producers to create a safe environment is, well, there's virtually none.
mm-hmm,
So I would love to see that. Crash tests.
mm-hmm,
we agree.
mm-hmm,
That's
mm-hmm.
definitely a good.
Yeah, we had a on show. We had a Anik Runting. She's from Luvly EU. They're organizations who are supporting light electric vehicles in Brussels, in Belgium. So we can connect with her and see if she can support you. A city
Yeah,
where the Luvly O would feel right at home.
probably Stockholm. I
Sorry,
guess.
you're breaking up a bit there. I couldn't hear the question.
Oh, sorry. A city where the Luvly O would feel right at home.
Oh, I'll give you a number. It would
A
feel
number.
very much at home in Paris, in
Okay.
London, in Milan, in Rome, in Delhi, in Calcutta, in you know, it's the perfect car for big cities.
Understood, definitely. We've seen a metric you obsess over besides watt hours per kilometers, as we said, really good battery efficiency.
Well, as always, weight, and as always, cost,
Mm-hmm.
and as always, G forces.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, so
Interesting.
we don't want to feel pressure when driving Luvly O. So I get it. I get it. Uh,
Yeah.
Martin, please.
I have one more additional question. Now that I'm thinking about it, I drive an EV. I drive a BMW i3. And the car is really cool, but I don't feel particularly safe driving it super fast and then another big car, let's say on a motorway, driving past me. Because then I feel like I'm in some kind of the car tilts right to the left. It's not the best option. How is it solved with the microcars with your technology? How is that approached?
Well, myself, I approach it in two ways. First of
Mm-hmm.
all, you're absolutely right. You know, a small light vehicle, even though you build it with our fantastic technology, is not as safe for the passengers as the large vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And we have really, really large vehicles running the streets today. You have
Absolutely.
the latest electric Volvo, not the latest, but the biggest electric Volvo is over 3 tons.
Mm,
These are not cars, it's tanks. I think that you have to accept that people realize that they're not as safe. They may, for the time being, be reluctant to actually go on highways together with these behemoths. There's not we need to allow time for change to happen. What I do feel is that problem is not with microcars. That problem is with the tanks.
Yeah.
I see no reason why we actually allow and promote tanks on our streets. These are our streets. As citizens, we must take responsibility to stop tanks on the streets. And sometimes people argue that no, it's personal freedom and blah blah blah. There are so many things that we cannot do.
mm-hmm.
You know, it it's just, if it's not for the public good, if it's not for if it harms us as members of a society, then we should disallow it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely
Mm-hmm.
agreed.
Yeah,
Simple as
as I
that.
said,
That is that is
nobody
my
needs a
view.
BMW X7, in city. That car is totally unpractical. Like, I don't know
Well,
why would you.
I mean,
It's
that
like,
all comes down to how you define need, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
it's need. It's
yeah,
more
Yeah,
want,
yeah.
more of a
Wants and
want.
needs.
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, but you can say that about so many things. There are so many things that people need that aren't allowed.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think I
Absolutely.
think I think really big cars in city settings shouldn't be allowed. That's what I think.
Yeah, yeah. I totally agree.
And I think that
Uh,
with that message, I think we can end today's
we
uh
can. Yeah,
episode because we've gone through everything. We've really gone
yeah.
through everything. I don't even
Was a
know what
great
to
one.
ask. I mean, I know, but it's been 70 minutes. I don't want to take any of your time. And I do hope we do a round two sometimes in the future after your big plans for 2026 go through. So yeah, I think this
I'm
position,
looking forward to it.
this, please take over the baton. How to say it?
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah,
Yes.
likewise. We love talking to someone who understands. Whenever we do an interview, we love talking to someone who understands the culture. I get it, the product, the markets, the prices, the technology, everything, but the culture is, you know, it can make or break a company. You can. So I'm
Absolutely.
so grateful for this opportunity. Martin, please take
Thank you so
take
much,
over
Håkan. Yeah,
the verse
just
from me.
just one more. This was Håkan Lutz, CEO of Luvly, showing us how small, smart, and efficient design can make electric mobility truly accessible. We'll be watching as adoption, production moves forward. And yeah, wish you all the luck. And yeah, as Philip said, we'd love to do a round two somewhere in the future. And yeah, that was all for us. We'll catch you back next time with more great leaders and founders of mobility space. Thank you once more, Hakan.
So much. Thanks.